Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the New York Sports Rush. I'm Adam the Bull, and we're joined again this week by MLB.com senior national reporter, Mark Feinsand. Mark, good to talk to you again. What's going on?
Not much, Bull. Just recovering after a
Yes.
very, very busy few days here before the trade deadline.
Yeah, now, listen, I know people were hassling you about the Domino's pizza, and I know you told the story, but I forgot who sent it to you.
Brian Hoke, my
Brian Hoke.
Yankees,
Okay,
my Yankees
my bad.
beat writer.
So is Brian not from New York originally?
Brian's from Suffern, New York. He is. It
So
all started as a joke where I think we might have been in Tampa or something during spring training, and he ordered Domino's pizza, and I said, "How are you eating Domino's pizza?" He said, "It's pretty good." I said, "It's not." He said, "Look, I'm not comparing it to like good New York pizza, but just like you wouldn't compare a McDonald's cheeseburger to like a good, pub cheeseburger. Like when you say I'm in the mood for a cheeseburger, you're not like thinking about a McDonald's burger, but sometimes you're in the mood for McDonald's." So, and I said, "All right, that's a fair comp. I'll give it to you." So as a joke, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 years ago, whatever it was, he sent me Domino's pizza the night of the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And it's become his tradition that he sends me Domino's pizza the night of the trade deadline. So this is not like an argument of like Domino's is superior pizza.
Yeah.
It's just sort of the bit that he started, and he's committed to the bit, and I am a happy recipient on trade deadline night to get home from the network and have hot pizza waiting for me. So I'm not going to argue with him.
No, free food can never be bad food.
Plus those cinnamon twists they have are really good.
I've never had those. That's one thing from there I've never. When I was living in like Utica, I'd get Domino's sometimes at 1 in the morning when I'm 28 years old and it's Utica, New York. There's not many options.
For me, the taste of Domino's pizza just brings me back to like freshman year of college when you could use your dining points to order Domino's, and you're like, well, deal. Let's do that because it's better than going down and having another meal at the dining hall. So it brings a little nostalgia involved as well.
It was a busy day, obviously, on trade deadline day. A lot of people have killed the Yankees. I actually think they did a decent job. I like the two bats they got. I'm always been a Luis Garcia guy. I thought Elliot Ramos was a nice pickup. You could always do more, and I get it. Yankee fans are spoiled, and they're greedy, and they expect the biggest trades to be Yankee trades all the time. But I, as a non-Yankee fan, actually thought they did okay. What did you think?
I thought they did fine. I mean, here's the problem is, they're unfortunate that they were in a year where their biggest needs were hitting and catching. And you're in a market where there really wasn't a whole lot of hitting and there really wasn't a whole lot of catching. I mean, early in this process, like let's say beginning of July, everybody's saying, "Oh, they should go get Shea Langeliers from the A's, or they should go get Hunter Goodman from the Rockies."
Right.
Guess what? Langeliers had a meniscus tear and is out for the year, and probably wasn't getting traded anyway. And Hunter Goodman wasn't getting traded.
No.
So. Unless you wanted to give him George Lombard and 2 other prospects, 2 of your other top 5 or 6, which wasn't happening. So then you're looking at, Tyler Stevenson, you're looking at Jonah Heim, you're looking at sort of, second tier, third tier catchers. The price for Stevenson wasn't cheap. I don't think they could have just gotten him for, some lottery ticket prospect. And they must have decided that, the catching situation they have, Tyler Stevenson wouldn't have been that big of an upgrade to begin with. So were they in talks for Adley Rutschman? Yes. But when you look at the price that Boston paid for Rutschman of 3 of their top 5 prospects, that's a pretty steep price for a guy for 1 year and 2 months, especially when you don't know exactly what that second year is going to look like because of the labor situation. So I feel like they got themselves a big slugger in Garcia, which they needed. I mean, we don't know when Judge is back, and they need some offense between now and then. So I like that. Ramos, I like that. Controllable outfielder with another good right-handed bat. So I think considering what was out there, and you can only trade for what's out there, right? I mean, it's easy to say, "Oh, they should have gotten Fernando Tatis." Well, Fernando Tatis wasn't available, Considering what was out there and the prices that were being asked, I thought Cashman did fine.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like there were a ton of big hitters traded. It just wasn't the case. I mean, Luis Garcia is probably one of the better hitters, maybe the best hitter that got traded.
Guy was leading the National League in slugging percentage. Like there's, a pretty impactful bat, and
Yeah.
for the Yankees to go out and get him, I thought that was an aggressive move. It doesn't necessarily fit great position wise, and I think
Yeah.
that's what people are barking about. But you find the offense where you can find it and you make it work, and that's now Aaron Boone's problem to figure out how to get him in the lineup and where to put him and when to. I think you'll end up seeing Paul Goldschmidt be a defensive replacement a bunch of times.
Yeah.
You'll see Rice and Garcia somewhere DH first base combo. But the Yankees needed offense. They needed offense badly. And the only thing that mildly surprised me was that they didn't add another relief pitcher. Um, there were a bunch moving. Now, there weren't a bunch of like established great
No.
relievers out there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think, Luke Weaver may have been the best reliever moved at the deadline.
Zaffarjan, who the Cubs got,
Right. It was it was a
good, but
lot of sort of young,
yeah.
controllable, unpredictable
Yes.
types. And, I think the Yankees are probably looking at some of the guys in their own system and saying we could probably bring these guys up in August and September and give them a shot to impact the bullpen, and you don't have to give anything up to have that happen.
Right. Yeah, no, it was, and in the end, like the American League is wide open. The Yankees are right there. Obviously, there's only the Yankees, Red Sox, and Rays are the only teams in the American League more than 2 games over 500, which is just crazy. I think even though the Yankees just took 2 or 3 from the Cubs, I really still think the 4 best teams in baseball, in my opinion, are the Braves, Cubs, Brewers, and Dodgers. I think that and then come the Yankees, Red Sox, and Rays to me. But that's the thing. So the American League is the Central and the West in the American League are so bad.
Yeah, they're not good. I mean,
Yeah.
and they should be better. I mean, it's amazing that we see the Astros in first place as we're speaking right now.
Yeah.
That team looks dead in the Houston and Boston both looks completely dead.
Yeah.
4 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, you would have thought both of those teams would be sitting here today talking about the fire sales that both of those teams had held.
Yeah.
But now, they're both been really hot, and the Astros have sort of climbed out of the hole they dug themselves early. But no, you're right. The Central and the West and the AL are just bad. It's hard to imagine those teams coming out of the league to get to the World Series. I mean, right now the AL East has the 3 best teams in the league, in the American League.
Yeah.
And to me, as currently constituted with who's injured and who's not, I wouldn't argue with you about your power rankings there. I might put the Cubs behind 1 or 2 of those AL East teams, but the Dodgers, the Brewers, the Braves are to me hands down the top 3. I think the Phillies are a challenge to be up there as well.
Yep.
I like the moves that they made. But if Judge comes back and if Bellinger comes back, then to me, with the pitching the Yankees have, and I'm assuming that they're gonna, well, think about it. With the pitching they have for the postseason, Weather's probably in the bullpen.
Yeah.
And that's a hard throwing guy to put there in the 6th or 7th inning, or maybe both, because he's obviously not a 1 inning guy.
Yeah.
He's going to be a big weapon for them in the bullpen, because I think when you look at Fried, Schlittler, Cole as your top 3.
Yeah.
Let's assume that Rodon is back by then and would pitch game 4. And even if he's not, Will Warren can pitch game 4.
Right.
Weathers becomes a really, really big bullpen weapon in October. So if Judge is back, if Bellinger's back, I still think the Yankees are the favorites to come out of the American League.
As far as the Mets go, obviously they traded basically their entire pen outside of Devin Williams got traded. And now they've, oddly enough, won 2 games in a row against the Guardians. But what do you think about what they did at the deadline?
I mean, again, completely expected, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you knew that. I think Anthony DeComo, my colleague over at MLB, had set his over under to 6.5 trades, and I think they ended up going over, right? Or it was right there.
Yeah.
So I mean, you knew what it was going to look like. It wasn't a surprise. All those impending free agents were going to go. I thought, given that you knew that they were going to be trading all of these guys, I thought they did pretty well. I mean, the number 1 prospect in their organization now is a guy they got at the deadline, right? Jefferson Rojas,
right?
Who they got from the Cubs for Clay Holmes and Tyrone Taylor.
Yeah.
But even to get 3, again, they're not top 100 guys, but to get three prospects back from the Rays, who have a very deep farm system and some well-regarded players,
Yeah,
for Peralta, given the year he's having, the shortstop that they got from the Pirates for Weaver, I've heard nothing but good things about him. It's hard for me because I rely on other people to give me
sure.
opinions on some of these prospects, as I just I don't know a lot of them in terms of the guys who are in A ball and low
Right.
low minors. But it seems like the return that they received for these guys, people seem to be impressed with the job that they were able to do. Now,
Yeah,
were they able to go out and land, you know, four new top 100 guys? No, but they didn't have the goods for that.
that's
So,
true.
same deal. You can only get what you have to work with. So,
Yeah.
um, I think everybody knew Stearns was going to be selling big, all these rentals, and a couple, I think Weaver may have been the only guy, if I'm not mistaken, who was under control beyond this year. Um, so, mission accomplished, I guess.
Yeah, I'm curious, not being in New York on a regular basis anymore for me. Does the Pete Crow Armstrong for Javi Baez trade get brought up a lot in New York?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and it's now becoming the new Bobby Bonilla day.
Oh yeah, right,
The
right, right.
the anniversary of that deal
Yeah,
becomes, hey, on this date 4 years ago, the Mets
right.
traded
That's
Victor
true.
Armstrong for Javier Baez, and it's become like the annual like, hey, Mets fans, if you didn't already want to blow your brains out, here's an idea for you, and they, people rub in the PCA thing. So,
Okay.
at least that was a different front office. So at least
Yeah,
David
that's
Stearns
true.
can't wear that one, right?
No, that's true. It hasn't gone well since, but
Though it's a tough look, but at the same time, like the Dodgers traded Yordan Alvarez to the Astros for Josh Fields, right?
yeah,
Like they traded O'Neal Cruz to the Pirates for nothing. Like
yeah,
this stuff
it
happens.
happens.
It's just, it's just that the Dodgers have then gone on to win, two or three World Series since those have happened,
Yep.
and the Mets have not. And obviously,
Right.
as the Mets are having the season they're having in PCA as an MVP candidate, that's not going to wear well on fans. But this stuff does happen, and
Yeah.
it's unfortunate for the team that trades them away.
And even this one, I'm sure never gets talked about in New York because why would it? But here in Cleveland, even though the Guardians are certainly a well regarded organization and do a lot of things well besides spend money, the Guardians traded Junior Caminero to the Rays for Tobias Myers. And
Yep.
that was a disaster, that trade. They could certainly use Junior Caminero's bat right now.
Yeah, but
You
when
know,
these guys are
it
18-year-old prospects,
Exactly.
you don't know. You don't know who's
Yeah.
gonna break out and who's gonna blossom. And look, I guarantee you that if Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff knew that Junior Caminero was going to become Junior Caminero,
Right.
he probably wouldn't have gotten traded. But you could say the same thing with Yordan Alvarez and O'Neal Cruz with the Dodgers, or PCA with the Mets, or
Yeah.
at the time you make the trade, you make it with the best knowledge you have. Look, if Sammy Stafora ends up becoming Derek Jeter,
Yes.
or Nomar Garcia Parra, or whoever,
Yep.
then the Pirates are going to go, and the fans are I can't believe we traded this all-star,
That's
potentially
right.
Hall of Fame shortstop for a 1 year of a relief pitcher.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a chance that could happen. Who
Yeah.
knows? But at the time of the trade, you do what you do with the information you have,
That's right.
and that's it. I mean, look, Theo Epstein used to say all the time that when he traded Gleyber Torres
Yeah.
for Aroldis Chapman in 2016, he knew that there was a very good possibility that that trade was going to haunt him in his sleep for years to come if the Cubs didn't win the World Series.
Yes.
Guess what? Aroldis Chapman helped the Cubs win the World Series. Gleyber Torres could have gone on to a Hall of Fame career,
Wouldn't matter.
and it was totally worth it for Theo.
Yes.
He said, if not now, when? Right?
That's right.
Gleyber had a couple of years, couple all-star seasons where he was hitting 38 home runs that made it look like it was going to be a really good deal for the Yankees. And then
Yeah.
Gleyber kind of tapered off and never quite continued what he was doing. But that's the thing in these trades, when you're talking about prospects, they're
Yeah.
prospects, and 98% of them are going to end up being, either mid-level major leaguers or never get to the major leagues. And the
Right.
2% that end up being all-stars, you're going to sit there and say, oh my God, I can't believe they traded that guy. But
Yeah.
I think our buddy Anthony Castrovins had a
Yeah.
stat that, didn't we may have talked about this last week,
Yeah.
that of the 102 guys who had been traded out of the top 100 in the last 20 years, only a third of them had even compiled 5 WAR.
Right.
and a quarter of them had compiled 10 WAR
Right.
over the course of their careers. I'm
Yes.
not talking about a 5 WAR season. I'm
Right.
talking about a 5 WAR career. So chances are, if you take a list of all the prospects, top to bottom, who were traded this week, and we look at them 5 years from now or 10 years from now, there will be two or three names that stand out of, oh yeah, that was a pretty good player. And then you'll
Yeah.
have 100 guys or however many it was, and you'll go, who?
Yeah. Exactly. Well, we remember the few lopsided ones, but most of them don't work out. That's true. One more thing on the Yankees. Obviously, it's been a tough stretch of games. Since the All-Star break, Dodgers, Pirates, Phillies, White Sox, Cubs, Cardinals. Oddly enough, they won the series with the Phillies. They won the series with the Cubs. They split with the White Sox, but they lose 2 out of 3 to the Cardinals and really didn't score much the last 2 games, scoring just 3 runs in the last 2 games. And now the tough schedule continues after a day off today with the Braves. So they've been challenged in this stretch, which I kind of like to see where a team's at, and when you play all these good teams back to back to back, it kind of tells you where you are to some degree. How do you think they played overall against some of these good teams?
I mean, when you come out of the All-Star break and you've got this sort of gauntlet schedule, like you
Yeah,
said, it tells you a lot about who you are, where you
yeah,
are, and remind, we have to just remind people that they're doing this without their two best hitters, arguably, right? I
yeah.
mean, Judge and Bellinger. So is this the lineup? If they see the Dodgers or the Cubs again in the World Series, they'll probably look a little different than they do right now.
That's true.
But the fact that, look, the bottom line is they can pitch. And, um, when you look at some of the losses, right, they lost, a walk-off in Wrigley 2-1. They lost, yesterday 3-1. Like the pitching has been pretty good.
Yeah,
And really that's going to be their calling card, and that's what's going to carry them. Certainly until Judge gets back, and then once Judge gets back, well, when you can add a bat like his into a lineup where you have a rotation that's clicking the way the Yankees are,
yeah.
I just think ultimately, yeah, you'd like to get that first wild card spot at least, and not have to potentially go play 3 games at Fenway. Um, for a wild card series. You'd
Sure.
really like the Red Sox to be coming to New York. Right now, I think the Yankees are tied with them in the loss column, and they've got 2 more wins, and they're
Yeah,
so they're 1 game up. Um, and the Rays are what, 4 or 5 games up right now.
yeah.
There's a lot of baseball left to be played. We still got another 50 games or so. So
Give or take. Yeah.
45, 50 games, whatever it is. There's still a lot of baseball left. So I think these 3 teams are going to make this really interesting down the stretch here. And the Yankees, I mean, it's not going to get much easier. They've got the Braves. The Mariners are a little feisty. Um, but then they get a stretch of Toronto, Baltimore, and Toronto for 9 days, and
Yeah.
those teams both just sold a bunch of players, and that should, I think, everything's leading up to that late August 4 game set with Boston.
Yes.
That's going to be a bloodbath.
Yes, it is. That's always fun. All right, Mark. Great stuff as always. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Thanks, Mark.
You got it, man.
All right, this was the latest edition of the New York Sports Rush. I'm Adam the Bull. Thanks for joining me, and thanks to Rob and Ernie for producing today. We'll talk to you next time on New York Sports Rush, brought to you by Bet Rivers. See you, everybody.